Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ramblings of a Mad Guy. We are live. Coming to you from. Wait, how did I say it? It's Saturday night. It's Wednesday morning. Yeah, let's do some tag. Bro, let's do some tag.
Finally, GPT.
What is this? Why is this open? Who knows? Gotta be honest, I'm a little stuffy today. I don't know if I'm getting sick. That would not be ideal. Oh yeah, this is a crazy video. A little Jim Bob action. Maybe at a later time, at a later date. Well, I was watching this.
So just because
This is a pretty interesting video. And I appreciate this guy, Fearless Truth. I've never seen him before, but he does a great job dealing with these two sort of like, they're kind of like Deconstruction Zone. They even take the same, like, I don't know, title or whatever. But they just say the Christian God is imaginary, is make-believe. Sorry. They're not exactly like, but just your average, like, sort of TikTok. Wait, can you hear me? Am I? Okay, yeah. Welcome, American. What's up? What's the plan? Probably a little bit of this kind of stuff, like a little bit of tag. And then really whatever you guys want to talk about, we can certainly do. Oh yeah, Sean wanted me to keep the chat open. Let me start the stage so he can. Tag, you're it. I'm a comedic mastermind. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know what chat you're going to be using, Sean, but I'll try to remember to keep that open or check it very often. Your last comment from Monday, knowledge is correctly receiving a form without its matter. If I have an apple, I have something red. If I have something red, I have an apple. I don't really know what that means. We'll leave that up to interpretation for our fellow viewers. So basically, this guy, he just, it's somewhat presuppositional, or, I'm not exactly sure what category this apologetic falls into exactly, but he does a great job handling these two atheists. It's pretty cool.
a mind is involved, it doesn't make it true or false.
Great, but I'm asking, are they objectively true concepts?
He's asking about the laws of logic. Right now, he's just asking about the laws of logic, but this applies to all transcendental categories.
And I don't know if we want to go into this mezzo. We can if we want to have fun, but it's going to put us in the same position of not getting to Jesus.
I mean, it's not.
Right.
We're
Like
talking
we've
about-
already Nick, we've already said that God
Conceded.
exists and whatever. You're trying to get us to the.
What's up, Sean? Okay, I can. So actually, that's good. I'm getting notifications, so I will see pretty much all your typing, which is great.
Your religion.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm
I guess I
showing
gotta
you.
stream. I guess I gotta stream the screen and the. There we go. And would you look at that? All right, sweet.
The Trinity. That's the entire point.
Oh, logic is going to bring us to the Trinity.
I
Yeah,
love
this is-
that.
have
Okay.
you not heard the one in the
So
middle?
what do you want us to say about logic?
Okay,
It
so
was
do you
eternal
believe-
from
okay,
a mind?
Yes. Do you believe that it
Okay.
eternally exists? in
Yeah,
concept?
it's eternal, a concept in the mind.
So there must be an eternal mind that eternally exists, right?
Just because it's in our minds?
No, because you said logic is eternal, and that logic exists in a mind. Therefore, the conclusion.
Oh, I
is
think
that
the logic.
must
I think the
eternally
laws of logic were true before minds.
Oh, before minds. So where did it exist at before minds?
They
Since logic
didn't exist
exists
in a place. There were non. What's the location place for temporal?
Yeah, so they do this for a while. I might even like fast forward it, but essentially, the way this argument has gone so far is like the two atheists have conceded, yes, logic pre-exists human minds, and they accidentally conceded that logic is conceptual, that in other words, that the only place it's found is in a mind. But if there was ever a time when there were no humans or any rational minds, and the laws of logic still existed, then the implication would be a universal mind. And they also conceded that logic itself is universal. I'm not sure if they know what that means when they conceded it. So if logic is conceptual and universal, there is a universal mind. I mean, it's pretty simple. We run this all the time. And then the atheist has to say, we'll see what these guys say. They don't really have a good answer to this. They kind of flounder around. But I think the strongest atheist answer to this would be some kind of like Platonic concession. Okay, fine. Logic exists universally. But maybe it doesn't need a mind. Maybe it needs just some kind of Platonic realm. But then you go, okay, what else is in that Platonic realm? And it's like, well, mind, morality. I mean, not mind, sorry. Logic, morality, uniformity of nature, all these things. And then it's like you're just describing God. And then this guy's going to make an interesting argument for why there needs to be a will to begin time, and then why a will also sort of implies a mind. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in that. Or time doesn't have to begin, says Sean. I just think I disagree with that. Why do you say that time doesn't have to begin? Because if it were true that there was an infinite regress of time, how would we ever be at this moment right here? How would, we would have something, the universe would have had to traverse an infinite set of days or seconds or minutes. But how? How does one traverse an infinite set of anything? The classic sort of like thought experiment is it's like jumping out of a hole that has no bottom. Well, how do you jump out of the hole if there's no bottom, right? And we can maybe I wrote. I mean, let's see. My mouse is broken, which sucks, so I can't scroll. We can read a little bit of what you guys were talking about in the chat because it was very interesting. So they're talking about solipsism. Jay Dyer, the way he runs tag comes up often. I think the way he argues and presents is confusing, and I've seen people with the same frustration. Yep, that's right. It is confusing, but that's because it's. Do I believe you don't believe in infinity? Well, no, I do, but I think there's no referent for infinity. In other words, there's absolutely no conceptual belief in infinity like that. You can't hold the concept in your mind. I believe God is infinite or something like that, if that even means anything. You know what I mean? Infinity is so impossible to conceive of that I don't even know if it means anything to say God is infinite, right? But I'll just assume. I'll just go ahead and say that, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know. I should actually ask. I should ask my priest about that. In what sense is God infinite? Is it fair to call him infinite? But I certainly don't. What I certainly don't believe in is a material infinity. And I certainly don't believe in an infinity of time. That just can't. Just because we can't comprehend infinity does not mean it doesn't exist. Well, but that doesn't refute my argument. My argument is, if there is an infinite regression of time, so time goes infinitely backwards, how does anything traverse an infinite set of things? So in other words, if you can't even talk about it because it's there's no beginning, right? So if time just stretches infinitely into the past, we would never be right here where we are right now. And the analogy I used was jumping out of a hole that has no bottom. So can you explain to me how today minus infinity, what that means? How that doesn't, one, add up to multiple different values. Either it adds up to many different values or no values at all, which seems like a total contradiction. I think it's more likely that if you did today minus infinity, there actually is no answer. Like it would be like a little zero with the strike through it. So that means it's not real. It's contradictory. It's not possible. So if you want to refute that, you can go for it. I'm not saying just because we can't comprehend infinity doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You asked me if I believe in it. And so I'm kind of doing a Jordan Peterson. What do you mean by believe? So why is there a problem with universal logic existing before the human mind? Just because you're not in the room does not mean those things don't exist. Well, yeah, of course. That's actually part of our argument that logic is universal. Logic does exist before our minds. And that's actually how we show that it can't be dependent on our minds. In other words, the necessary precondition for the laws of logic is not humans, because the laws of logic obviously existed before any humans, before any planets, before, I mean, at the very moment of like of matter, and scientists call it like the singularity or whatever, but like when things became particular rather than single, the law of identity is right there. It's already there in a weird way, or maybe it's there at the exact same time as the moment of creation. But that's part of our argument. So no, I absolutely believe that the laws of logic are not dependent on a human mind, but that doesn't mean they're not conceptual. And this is actually, I'd never thought about it like this. So the guy in this video does a good job of explaining it this way. Okay, so if they're conceptual and universal, we both agree they're universal. You probably disagree that they're necessarily conceptual. And this is how this guy shows it, and how I'm going to try to show it. Fearless truth. I shouldn't just call him this guy. Brother in Christ, fearless truth. Or Nick. He goes, okay, where do they exist? And I haven't thought this through all the way, but his implication is if something exists, it exists in a place. Unless you can think of anything that doesn't exist in a place. Well, atheists sometimes have to argue, or they don't have to, but atheists sometimes like accidentally start arguing that the laws of logic are not universal and that they are created by humans, because they have to disagree with one of the 2 points. If the laws of logic are both universal and conceptual, then there is, by definition, by necessity, a universal mind. So sometimes they go, oh, well, yeah, they're definitely conceptual. Like, it's a concept. It's something that you think, something that you can only think about, right? In other words, you can't look at it under a microscope. Then they would have to deny the universality of it. So they say, yes, it is conceptual, but we created the concept. Or they could say it is, they could concede that it is, that they are universal, but then they have to deny that they're conceptual. And so who's arguing against that and why? Well, they exist in the same way that laws of nature exist. Well, not in the exact same way, because laws of nature are somewhat more physical than conceptual. Like you actually can, not that you can see the law itself in that, to that extent. Yeah, you're right. Any law is a concept. So, I wasn't going to take it here, but if you want, I mean, you could maybe apply this to the laws of nature as well, that the laws of nature themselves imply a universal mind, or in other words, a being which wrote the law. Unless you can think of a law which wasn't created by anyone. And you're going to say, well, the laws of nature are, but then you're begging the question, right? I don't know if that's the right word, begging the question. I'm trying to use more fancy logic words. But you're just saying that, you're asserting that without a justification for the laws of nature. You say, well, they just are because they are, or whatever. But yeah, when it comes to the laws of laws of logic, where was I? Yeah, if they accept that they are universal, then they have to prove that they're not conceptual. And the response to that is, well, where are they then? Because conceptual means mind dependent. So what they're saying is, oh, the laws of logic are not mind dependent. They don't only exist in a mind. And the very simple question is, okay, where then? Like, where do they exist if not in a mind? It's like how mathematics exists without humans. A human mind is not all over the universe, but mathematics is, and that's why we can predict things all over the universe. Yeah, that's actually a quote from Einstein. He said, oh shit, I wish I remember the exact quote. I think it was along the lines of, the most unintelligible thing about the universe is that it's so intelligible. And yes, Sean is right. Mathematics is completely within a mind. So the mathematics is the same as a transcendental category as well. Or actually, I don't know if it's exactly a transcendental category, but mathematics is a branching. It flows from logic. So logic spawns mathematics, like the fundamental laws of logic. And mathematics is another one of these things that we can point to show that there is a universal mind. Because you're right, it is completely separate from human minds. It exists all over the universe in the same way, consistently. Before humans, after humans, regardless of humans, all the rest. So mathematics, like the laws of logic, the only thing that can explain them, or in other words, justify them, is a universal mind. Because like Sean says, mathematics is also conceptual, as in mind dependent, and also doesn't care if there are human minds around. So there must be another mind for them to exist in, right? That's the idea. That's kind of what we're arguing here with the presuppositional stuff. So again, I'll pose the same question about the laws of logic to you about mathematics. Okay, so they don't exist in human minds, but they are conceptual, or at the very least, if you don't want to say they're mind dependent, because I understand why you wouldn't, at the very least they're abstract, which I think also just means mind dependent at the end of the day. But they're abstract, so where are they? Everything that exists is what this guy's going to say, and I haven't thought about this too much, but it seems to work. Everything that exists in a place. So what is the place where logic and mathematics exist, essentially? And remember, we're talking about paradigms here. I'm not saying, give me evidence. Give me evidence where it exists. I don't think you have evidence. I don't think I have evidence of where it exists either. Sean says not everything has to exist in a place. Yeah, that's something I'm still working through, but I mean, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Sean. Like, where do things exist if not in a place? Or what's an example of one thing that does not exist in a place? Okay, yeah, so American just concedes, okay, yeah, there is a universal mind. So then that's a whole other argument to get American to Christianity. But let's stick with, I mean, we could do that, but let's stick with logic for now. And the question I would ask American, I guess, just as a I don't know. God, angels, and those currently in heaven and hell are examples of those things not in places. For God, I might grant you that. But also God exists in every place. So even God does exist in a place. But I'm not saying a physical place, Sean, by the way. I'm not saying a place that's material, of course. Because I'm counting a mind as a place, right? And then the angels, I think, exist in like a spiritual place, as well as people in heaven and hell and all the rest. So, like, if a mind is a place, then I think we can count like spiritual realms as a place. God like prior to creation? Now that might be a different story that I'm just radically underqualified to assess. Oh, okay, wait. You have a big thing from Aquinas. Okay, so Aquinas disagrees with your argument. Good thing I'm not a Thomist. Okay, objection 6. Further, if the world always was, the consequence is that infinite days preceded this present day, but it is impossible to pass through an infinite medium, which is my argument, and I understand he's making an objection to my argument. Therefore, we should never have arrived at this present day, which is manifestly false. It's confused. What does he mean, which is manifestly false? But we'll keep going. Okay, reply to objection 6. Passage is always understood as being from term to term. Whatever bygone day we choose, from it to the present day, there is a finite number of days which can be passed through. Okay, I think I understand this. The objection is founded on the idea that given two extremes, there is an infinite number of mean terms. And then Sean gives us a breakdown. So given an extreme, one can have an infinitely extending medium in the other direction, but to have an infinitely extending medium is to have no other extreme. For example, you can have one fixed beginning shade of purest white, and then an infinite number of shades going in the opposite direction, getting darker and darker, but to have an infinite number of these shades is to have no purest black. Or the other way around, you can have the blackest black and then a gradient into whiteness with an infinite number of shades. There is no whitest white. So given a starting day and an infinite number of days going into the future, there is no present. But those who say that there's an infinite past reject the idea of a starting day, instead saying that there is a present day and no beginning. There just is no starting day. It's not a given. Therefore, one may believe that there is an infinite past. That's not exactly how I read Aquinas, but I do understand what you're saying here. I mean, yeah, infinity does rule out the extremes, right? I definitely get what you're saying with that. If you have infinite shades of white on like one of the, like you go to Home Depot and you open the little like paint, evaluator, and it was infinitely large. And you're going from white to darker and darker, well, you would never reach the extreme of black because it's infinite. There is no end to that. But see, to me, that seems like it refutes the infinite past idea, because just replace white and black with past and future. So I'm not sure how you get back to, but now it makes sense. What I read Aquinas here as is, well, yes, there can be no traversal over an infinite. Well, wait, let's read it again. Passage is always understood as being from term to term. So what I read this as is kind of what Infamous's objection was like, okay, but what if there's this infinite timeline, infinite past, but then say like our universe started at a point on that timeline and we can only traverse from point A to point B. Like say point A is like, 6 billion years ago or whatever, and point B is the present day. Like you're portioning out a section of this like potential infinity and then you can traverse that. But I think that would run into the problem of, how did the point A traverse the infinite timeline to get to B point A? Because that would then have an infinite past. Like say the Big Bang is point A, the first term, and we travel to the second term, then wouldn't point A have the exact same problem of an infinite past that is untraversable? Whatever bygone day we choose, from it to the present day, there is a finite number of days which can be passed through. So Aquinas is saying there could be infinite past, but we only can deal with finitude. We can only talk or even notice a finite past. The objection is founded on the idea that given two extremes, there is an infinite number of mean terms. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, yeah, it's really tough. Um, I like it. I like Aquinas. I don't take every word of his as gospel. I'm not a Thomist. You know. I know you don't take it as literal gospel. I just mean that metaphorically. So I think there's a lot of cases where Thomas Aquinas can be wrong, can be very wrong, and I'm not saying he is here because I would need more, I don't know, brain power to even understand exactly what he's saying. But I think the infinite past, if that's something Aquinas affirms, I do think the infinite past still doesn't work. I'd need a stronger argument for that. Okay. Should we do a little more of this?
What's the
How
word
does
for
something
that?
exist without a place?
This is what we're talking about.
It's what do you mean exist without a place?
Well, it
Lots of things
wasn't
exist
an
without a place.
idea. It wasn't an idea.
It wasn't an idea. It was just a true thing.
Oh, how does it? Where did it exist? Can you give me an example of something that exists without a place?
Red.
In what?
Red.
This is an interesting example. So he goes, can you give me an example of a thing that exists without a place? And the atheist goes, red. And at the very beginning, you might go, oh, yeah, that's a good example. Maybe this argument doesn't work. Red, the concept red, doesn't exist without a place. But two objections, which he's going to point out, Nick here. One, red exists in all sorts of places, like tons of them. It exists, anything that is red exists in that place. But if you're talking about the concept red, that also exists in a place, also in a mind. So that is not an objection. That does not answer whether there's anything that exists without a place.
To them, they just figured out they were true, right?
Yeah, but it still exists into.
What's up, Newman? Welcome, bro. This is a cool. I hadn't heard this guy before. I don't know if it seems like his channel. He's got like 10,000 subscribers, so it seems like he's been around, and he's clearly a very good apologist, I think, from this video. And he basically is arguing tag, and it's kind of in a way I hadn't heard before. So we're talking about this idea of, does anything exist without a place? And this is really important to show that the laws of logic are conceptual, human mind independent, but mind dependent, right?
What we define them as eternally, correct?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know about
don't know?
concepts. Do you think they
It
exist
might
in a
be.
place?
It might be in the same way that red existed, right? Is that what you're saying, Nick?
no,
Where like
no.
red existed on a
It's hard
flower,
for-
the
it's
way
hard
that
for Nick
the
'cause he
flower.
thinks there was always a mind.
Yeah, I'm showing you there has to be. Again, how?
No,
exactly-
because like red doesn't need a mind to exist, right? Like red
because
is
it has a location.
yeah, like that is the same for like the P. So the P that equals P, the location is the flower, let's say.
What about
What's up, the simple gospel? Welcome. Isn't he Jay Dyer? No. Although maybe he is a Jay Dyer clone in some way. Although it actually is different. I don't hear Jay Dyer ever argue this particular point about everything existing in a place. Yeah, Jay Dyer's a universal concept. If no humans existed, Jay Dyer would be out there. That's what it seems like sometimes on my YouTube feed. But yeah, we essentially are arguing tag. And others in my chat, have learned most of that from Jay Dyer. But we're trying to get our own head around it. And it's good to hear other sources to help us really get our heads around it. Because it is kind of a tricky concept. But
about like happy?
That exists.
Yeah, so
and
what's
doesn't
the
also
location?
not exist.
Like, can
Yeah, so
happiness
what's the-
exist without a mind?
So what's the location of P and not P?
Maybe not.
The P is the flower. The P exists in the flower.
What's the not P? What is the not P?
I don't think logic has a location.
oh yeah, just to I see there's some confusion. Yeah, so this guy looks like Jay Dyer is what you're saying. I see what you're saying. He does a little bit. He looks kind of like slightly more like soy boy Jay Dyer. Yeah, Jay is the Orthodox apologist. So this guy is an atheist. He runs the TikTok channel, The Christian God is Make Believe, right? Or like that's his whatever. That's how he gets people talking on his TikTok. Warning, hosts might do jokes. Warning, in case you're offended. In case spaghetti monster makes you triggered, right? I would loathe to hear what these jokes are, but anyway. So yeah, atheist, and then there's a caller right now, and we're on his channel, Fearless Truth, and his name is Nick, and he's destroying the atheist on the atheist channel. So that's kind of the setup for what's happening right here. American says, who's to say that our reality is created in layers, like dimensions of perception, and different laws and logic exist in a layer beyond us, like an interstellar, where time and space are like a valley to another dimensional being? Well, you're still talking about a mind. So you're still talking, if there's another dimensional being or whatever, like, okay, so say, I mean, we believe there are layers of reality. Like, there's a spiritual realm, and within the spiritual realm, there's all sorts of, my father's house will have many mansions. I'm going to build, or does he say I'm going to build many rooms for you in my father's mansion? So, yeah, it's like Jerry Springer, atheist. Yeah, except way more annoying. I'd much rather watch Jerry Springer. Kind of like Kantianism, but the critique of that is usually that we must use the rules of layers to understand anything, so the other layers couldn't be understood. That, or also, like, I just still don't think things that are conceptual become non-conceptual just because it's in a higher spiritual realm, because these higher layers also would imply mind. Like, if you're talking about other dimensional beings, or if you're just talking about identity, like, does layer, because it's like an alien thing, does the quadrax layer equal itself? Is it identical to itself? Can the quadrax layer both be itself and not itself, right? So the laws of logic would seem to be even more fundamental than that. And they still seem to be conceptual, even if there are tons of other things going on that we don't know about. So that would be my response to that for the most part.
So, for example, the law of
I don't know. Maybe there's a platonic form of it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so for example, the law of non-contradiction, P cannot be P and not P at the same time. Where does that exist?
I don't think it exists in a place. I don't know.
Okay, so then how does
It's a problem.
something exist?
I don't think it
without a place?
requires a mind, though.
Okay, so then where does it
I think
exist?
it
without a place?
requires reality.
Okay, if it's in
I mean, yeah, so I'm not trying to be mean, but that guy, that's not an answer. Oh, it doesn't require a place. It requires reality. Well, isn't reality a place? Right? Or no, he said it doesn't require a mind, it requires reality. So maybe that is his response. Like, oh yeah, it does exist in a place. Reality. Well, what does reality mean? That means nothing. Because if he's talking about material reality, well, that's certainly not where it exists. And we agree. So we believe it exists in reality too. We also believe a mind is real, which actually a lot of atheists don't believe a mind is real. I'm not saying they do. So it's sort of like a dodge. It's like, well, it exists in reality, man. It's kind of he didn't really say anything.
reality, it has to have.
Nick, hold on a second. Hold on, Nick. Take a deep breath, dude.
What?
Your
Yeah,
speed,
now he's getting like whatever.
Yeah, we're okay. I want to go through this with you. I love this conversation, but like, take a breath.
I mean, I'm fine. I'm just trying to keep you guys.
I know you're fine. I know you're fine. I just
If
want
you
to take
need
a
time to
little
think about it, it's okay.
I just want you to take a breath.
But I'm literally just asking a question. I'm asking where it is.
It's interesting, Numenon. This guy actually does have a argument against the Platonic atheism point, and it's sort of I didn't really fully get my head around it, but it sort of runs along the lines of if given that the universe started at any given point, this would require a will. So if there was no if this Platonic realm was sort of like chugging along mechanistically, then its outputs would always be predictably determined by its inputs or whatever its nature is. But if existence went from like non-existence or whatever, like, I don't know, pre-existence to the material universe, well, then something changed in this Platonic realm. Does that make sense? Or I don't know, man. I got to get better at this. This guy, Fearless Truth, is going to offer actually a much better way to break that down than me, if I remember correctly. Or maybe he already did, but I think it'll come back up.
Did it exist?
And I keep telling you, I don't know.
Okay.
You tell me.
Yeah, so the point is things cannot exist without a place to exist. So, for example,
Where did God exist before there was place?
yes, we believe he was omnipresent.
Where? How can he be present when there's not a place?
When was there not a place?
I mean, this is just a deflection. It's a tu quoque. It's answering, not even letting the guy finish his question, but it's answering a question with another question. So this is another evasion tactic, even if it's a good question, which in a way it is a good question. Like, oh, well, where did a God exist? What does it mean to be omnipresent prior to like material matter or whatever? I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly the answer. I could take guesses or whatever. That's probably a deep theological point. But the point is that's a distraction from the point that's being made. Things don't exist without a place. A lot of times atheists will go, but God, though. And that's usually like 98% of the time that's a category error. So I'm just going to assume that's a category error and kind of move on. But, if somebody has a problem with that, we can get into it. And then Numenot says, yeah, I think the symmetry breaker has to focus on whether the immaterial needs something like intentionality. That's what I would say, yeah. I think that's what William Lane Craig tries to prove. Other apologists, I think there's good ways to try to break that symmetry and prove intentionality. Then just on like a more, I don't know, on a let me call it like a not intelligent level. On the level of my feeble mind, like, okay, so there's all these transcendental categories, morality, time and space, like laws of logic, mathematics, uniformity of the uniformity of nature, all these things, right? And then what we're doing is we're finding out all the necessary preconditions for these things. And if the necessary precondition for all these things is some kind of like platonic realm in which justice is perfectly manifest, because of, and morality, like goodness is perfectly manifest, and like rationality is perfectly manifest, or the thing that can supply the explanation for all these transcendental categories, and that's this platonic realm. Well, isn't that just starting to sound more and more like a being or like a God with a mind that like holds justice, holds goodness, so at a certain point it's kind of like people go like, "Oh, simulation theory, man. Oh, simulation theory." And it's like, okay, yeah, we're in a simulation. Like, who created the simulation? And they're like, "Well, it could be like aliens who are so advanced they could create our whole universe in a computer." And it's like, well, okay, now aren't you just talking about like Zeus at that point? Aren't you basically just talking about like gods in this kind of pagan way? So these things kind of almost like merge once you get like deep enough into like simulation theory or platonic realms or something like that. It just sort of starts to sound like the thing we actually believe, which is God. Yeah, what is tag? Jonathan Hamilton says, oh, that's a big question. It's the transcendental argument for God, and it's an argument. It's a philosophical argument that tries to show the necessary precondition for things that we all take for granted. Actually, things that we need, things that they're called transcendental categories. Actually, this is what I wanted to do today. This is actually what I wanted to do today. We could try to write them out ourselves, but we could also be lazy. And let's list every transcendental category. I wonder if there's going to be a simple... Actually, this is a weird situation where ChatGPT might actually be better for this. Just to get like a list. Okay, you know what? We don't like to rely on ChatGPT. We really don't. and so we'll be critical about this list. But uh, yeah, Jonathan, like logic, math, uniformity of nature. Well, let's bring up the list. Okay. Please give an exhaustive list of all transcendental categories in relation to the tag. How about that? Okay. So it's splitting them up into a few things. This is what I argue by far the most. I don't know if it is the easiest one to conceptualize and argue, or if I just find it the easiest one. Ask the Catholic AI. I'm done with the Catholic AI, dude. I don't trust that thing. That was hard to use, and it like melted my computer. Not literally, but it was so like intensive, you know. So the logical categories I think are kind of the best example to use for arguing tag, just from my own experience or whatever. And some of these the laws of logic, we call them law of non-contradiction. You've probably heard of these. Law of identity. A thing is identical to itself. Law of excluded middle. This is an important one too for tag. The principle of sufficient reason. Every truth or fact must have an explanation or grounding. And that's what the atheist likes too. Usually the argument against this is, oh, well, all these things, they actually have no explanation and they have no grounding. And it's like, well, that's not an answer, because this is also a logical category, the principle of sufficient reason. Unless they disagree with the fact that every truth or fact must have an explanation or grounding, but I don't see how the atheists could disagree with that, given that usually their worldview is an empiricist one, where I don't see God, therefore not real, or whatever. I don't have explanation for God, therefore not real. Oh, but I don't have an explanation for any of these things, but these are all real. That's usually the play that they pull. So yeah, fundamental concepts without which reality could not be discussed. This is really important too. So a distinction between existence and non-existence. This one I need to do more research. I need to get my head around this, because this is a big topic and a tough one for me, and I need to really get into this. But the one and the many, coherence and particularity, cause and effect, of course, change and permanence, time is a metaphysical category. These are great. These are really, because it's basically an epistemic argument, so the epistemological categories are really great, because all you have to do is show that a worldview can't sustain any of these sort of categories, epistemological categories, and that denies the worldview. And so preconditions for knowledge and rational inference, which all of this is, like, these all lead into each other as well. So existence and non-existence makes no sense if there isn't a law of identity and a law of non-contradiction, because then existence could actually be non-existence. If a thing didn't have to be identical to itself, existence actually could be identical to non-existence, right? Same with unity and diversity and the rest. So preconditions for knowledge and rational inference. So truth has to be grounded, explained, justified by the principle of sufficient reason. Justification itself, memory, perception, inference. So then the moral argument is also really fun to make, because that's very easy to expose the flaws in a subjective morality, subjectivist morality, I'll say. Okay, just making sure we don't have any messages. So yeah, moral oughts, the reality of ought beyond mere preference. That's where atheists get caught up. They think that preference is a valid sense of morality, but it actually means nothing. How do you get an ought? You ought to do this. How do you get that in a worldview? Moral responsibility, good and evil. Yep. And then meaning in words, obviously that has to exist if anything we're talking about or arguing has any meaning, right? And the possibility of rationality, uniformity of nature, reliability of the mind. And so what I kind of wanted to do is run through, because like nobody ever challenges us on this. Hey, what's up, Lily Martin? Doing well, doing well. Welcome to the chat. Welcome. Hope you're enjoying. Drop your religious worldview, or a religious. Thank you, Lily Martin. I appreciate that. So let's go through and explain how God actually makes how the Christian paradigm actually does justify every single one of these, which I've yet to see another paradigm that basically even comes close. So, in other words, to say, if the Christian God is true, if he is real, can these things be explained by his existence? So, logical categories. Well, in the Christian paradigm, God essentially we have to anthropomorphize a little bit. Like, nothing at all is perfectly analogous to God. But in our paradigm, I mean, God clearly has a logos. And actually Jesus Christ is the logos, right? Is the word of God, through which he creates. But so God clearly has a mind. And he clearly he creates things in a rational way. I mean, this is what Genesis is about. An ordered, rational, reasonable creation, which you would expect from the God of the Bible, right? And so that itself, that explains logical categories. So God has a universal mind. Therefore, these universal concepts can be grounded by a universal mind. A universal mind would provide a justification for universal concepts. So that's how the Christian God justifies the logical categories. In terms of the metaphysical categories, so existence and non-existence, again, we get this from Genesis. In the beginning, let there be light, etc., etc. There's an acknowledgement that God brings things into existence from non-existence, that there's a distinction between these two things. The one and the many I don't really want to get into now until I research it more, because there's a lot there, and I really need to understand this point better. But my understanding is that this is part of the necessity of the Trinity. And I'll leave it at that. And maybe we'll come back to that at a certain point. Causality, the necessity of cause and effect for coherent explanation. Again, God creates a rational universe with rules and laws. One of these laws is causality. So totally makes sense given the paradigm in which God exists. All right, Lily, maybe I'll get to that. Appreciate that. I'll add you on Discord. Lily Martin 3. Change and permanence, again. A lot of these things are just going to follow from the fact that God is a rational being with a supremely rational mind. So, things that follow from logical principles are going to also follow from the universal mind of God, essentially. Time, the order of events necessary for sequential thought. We get that. We see it in Discord. I mean, oh my goodness. Do I have brain rot? Is my brain rotting out of my head? I just said we see it in Discord. We see it in Genesis. The creation of time. So there's an explicit affirmation of the reality of time, its sort of fundamental nature. It's basically one of these first things that gets created, where we see the passing of days. He made the day and the night, yada, 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 etc. Preconditions for knowledge and rational inference, truth. So in terms of truth, what is truth, right? This definition gives us nothing, right? So if truth is, I'd say, let's just give it the quality of objective. Truth has no meaning if there's only subjective truth. I mean, that's actually an oxymoron. Because if it's at all subjective, then what one person perceives to be true may not be true according to another person. So then truth just becomes preference. And this is the exact same with morality. So if truth is like totally personal, individual, subjective, then it doesn't exist. The thing we mean by truth is that which, regardless of subjective experience, we can know to exist or know to be true, right? Maybe that sounds circular. I wonder if I can put it any better. ChatGPT says the correspondence or coherence that makes statements meaningful. That's another category, meaning. Wait, let's see. Real human being got us. Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe we'll do this on stream, maybe not. I don't know if you want us to read this on stream. This is very nice, though. I appreciate that. This is you basically going through, trying to understand, get your head around these J. Dyer arguments. Okay, I'll read this. We'll read this later. That's interesting, though. Thank you. Okay, so if there's an objective basis for truth, again, truth is kind of one of these things that's also conceptual and universal. So it also falls into this necessity of a universal mind to actually, what we would say is there needs to be a knower of all truths. There needs to be essentially like a library, a mind, where every truth is held for truth to have any referent. Because we only make subjective claims. We only make like sense data claims about what we believe is true, especially like scientifically. It's all about sense data. But if that doesn't access like an objective place of truth, if that's not made with reference to something that's not subjective, then the truth claims we're making are only in reference to subjectivity, and therefore they are not truth claims. They're preferences. They're totally changing, wispy sort of things. So when you do a bunch of subjective stuff and make a truth claim, if it's not with reference to an objective basis of knowledge, in other words, a holder of all the things that are actually true, then it means nothing. So God provides that. We do believe God is we say it all the time, omniscient. So because he is this library that holds all of the objective truths, we're justified in believing that we can know certain things to be true and other things to be false, because we're not relying on a subjectivist model. So truth makes sense given the Christian claim. Justification, the requirement that beliefs be supported by valid reasons. I'm like shotgun blasting this. Like, there's no way I'm making the best or proper arguments for all these, but I'm just trying to like show how there really aren't apparent weaknesses in the Christian paradigm when it comes to any of these categories. That like you will talk to atheists for hours and they won't be able to answer one of these questions, right? And I'm just saying we have a paradigm that we can go to and pretty easily come up with the answers that apparently are so difficult that nobody knows it. The answer is always, I don't know. Okay, fair enough. Justification, the requirement beliefs be supported by valid reasons. So, right, we live in a meaningful, ordered, rational universe, not created by random chance or chaos. So justification follows from that. Memory, continuity of consciousness for retaining, connecting information. Yeah, we trust that because we believe God gave us a brain, sort of made us in his image to be able to actually hold, like he does, true facts. And we hold untrue ones as well, because that's just our nature. So memory isn't perfect. But we believe we're created in the image of God to have like actual working cognitive faculties like he does. Newman says transcendentals, as I define them, are just beliefs that are entailed by every belief, and thus would be self-refuting to deny. Yeah, totally. I think that's a good point. Okay, perception. Again, yeah, we believe that our perception is accurate because we were created for this world. We were created actually for God perfectly. But if we came out of some like sludge or something and we're essentially no different than inert matter, there would pretty much be zero reason to actually believe your perception was interpreting anything, and it certainly wouldn't be meaningful. So we believe in a teleological universe. We believe that existence is geared towards meaning, that there is meaning to life, fundamentally. So we can also believe that our perception has meaning, that our sense data is accurate. And again, you essentially have to accept this. Like Numenad said, these are self-refuting if you deny any of these. Inference, deductive, and inductive reasoning presupposed in every argument. I mean, yeah, that's the building blocks of an argument. I don't think we need to show. I mean, everybody uses. I don't think we need to show how I think a lot of paradigms. Well, they certainly use inductive and deductive reasoning. Deductive is stronger. Induction is probably not supported by most paradigms, but we could get into it. However, there are like 7 definitions available out there. Yeah. Required for moral judgments. This is, morality, man. This is the big one. We've been talking so much about the mind of God. This is almost like the heart of God. We have a very clear, very real, like tangible ought. We have a lot. But the two, we're told that the 2 greatest oughts are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your strength, and your soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than that. Our paradigm is filled with moral duties, filled with the reality of ethics. God has a desire for how we live our lives and how we treat each other. And that's just one of the main parts of being a Christian, really. Not the main part, to be clear, but it's a big. Living properly is. I think it follows from the main part. The main part being to unite with Christ, to empty yourself of yourself, die in Christ, that Christ might live in you. I'd say that's the main part. But that from that follows actually obeying or acting out these moral duties that the religion is full of. So we have a very clear, very solid, concrete reason for moral categories, and where the tag and where the moral argument is so strong is against the atheist, who has no foundation for these moral categories. Just like truth, if these things are subjective, then it's not true. It's not ethical. It's not moral to be loving, to be, to not murder rather than murder. It's literally a preference. So, yeah, unless we can see how an atheist grounds morality in something actually objective, something universal, there's no reason to actually adopt that paradigm unless you want to. I'm not saying that atheists are bad people. I'm just saying they are good people in the face of their worldview. Their worldview would actually not require them at all to be good people. It would require them to abide by their whim, abide by their preference for how to treat people, which sometimes you see. But I think to the extent that atheists are good people, which many of them are, most of them are, they are subverting their own worldview. They're showing the inadequacy of their own worldview. And, from the Christian perspective, why does that happen? Oh, well, God writes his law on everyone's hearts and is drawing us into his life. So, anyway. Linguistic communication categories, meaning, very important. Well, we believe in a teleological universe, so meaning totally consistent within the Christian paradigm. Universals, shared concepts that transcend individual minds, again, totally consistent. God is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, so universals are expected. You would expect him, well, he would be the prime universal, I guess. But then you would expect universal categories to flow out from his universality. This is kind of an extension of meaning, syntax, and grammar. And okay, the possibility of rationality, that minds can grasp reality. Again, we believe we're created in the image of our rational creator, so that's why we believe that. Totally justified. The uniformity of nature, we're basically told that nature will continue. And again, following from the fact that our creator is in our paradigm, by the way, for newcomers. I'm not saying you must believe this. I'm not stating this as like some kind of unalienable, fact or something. But when we're comparing paradigms, in our paradigm, the creator is rational. He has a universal mind. He is reasonable. So whatever he creates, it's fair to assume it would follow that he would create rationally, given the sense that he is rational, like the way that we create things rationally, right? So yeah, we have a justification for the uniformity of nature. The reliability of the mind, again, we're created in the image of this mind. We know that God is love, that he loves us, so we don't expect him to be like Descartes' evil demon. So anyway, just wanted to run through. I never officially did that. I've never officially run through all these things that I'm asking atheists to please justify given their worldview. And now no one can say I haven't done it, right? They can say I haven't done it well. I think that would be a fair criticism. I'm learning, everybody. I'm learning. Part of this whole thing is me learning. I'm selfishly using this platform for my own education, and it just helps to try to talk things out essentially with you guys. So I appreciate you for being here. And yeah, to the atheist, I would just say, which of these things can you justify? Which of these things are grounded in your worldview, follow from your worldview, are coherent within your worldview? And so far from talking to you guys and other atheists, very little. I wonder what we could actually justify given the atheist paradigm. It depends on what kind of atheist we're talking about. Of course, there's a huge difference between a Platonist and a materialist. So the Platonist is going to be able to do a lot of this stuff, I think. Probably this. I mean, again, I'm not an expert, so I don't know. But the materialist is going to be able to do none of this. Or empiricist, someone that only believes in physical matter, in just atoms and protons and electrons and molecules, is literally not even able to explain the most basic category, the logical categories, which is a huge problem for the paradigm. I mean, it's a huge problem for a worldview. If it can't even justify the thing it's using to make claims, then it seems like it's self-refuting. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to this fella.
Before he made it.
Yeah, we believe he's materially identical to existence itself. So that existence itself exists.
You're saying things like as if they make sense really quick.
Oh, sorry about that.
Got a download going?
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we believe he's going to be materially identical in terms of to his existence.
Okay, do you have a proof for that or something?
What do you mean?
That's
That's
the
just going to be a
paradigm.
logical deduction based on God, what the God actually is in the first mover.
Oh yeah, you already believed that part. Yeah, we agreed to that. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, my point is, can you name me anything that exists without a place in which it exists?
I got to think about that. I don't know.
Yeah,
What exists without a place?
Yeah.
Does gravity exist?
Yes, and gravity exists in places.
Gravity
Where?
isn't a
Okay, for example, gravity exists on
Hey
Earth.
Nick, I can answer this one. Gravity doesn't exist as a thing. It's like the concept.
Oh, well, as long as he says it. Yeah, gravity doesn't exist as a thing. What? If he means a material thing, then I get that. He's whatever. Let's hear this out.
Of what we describe as matter interacting with space-time.
Okay, so it exists in space-time. He literally said the preposition in. He said it's a description of how matter interacts with other matter in space-time. So that's a place.
So it's like the interaction that's happening, right? It's not like there's a gravity. I mean, there are gravity waves and stuff, but that's not.
Oh, so there literally is. So you actually can. Yeah, the point there is gravity obviously does exist. Gravity is a thing, and it does exist in a place, space-time.
Not quite like
Right,
a
it's the
physical
force.
thing you can just grab.
Right,
on.
right. So yeah, so can you? I'll just let you if you can think of anything that exists without a place. Either of you guys.
What can exist without a place?
But why? I don't
So
understand.
where do you think it exists, Nick?
In
I'm
the
asking you
mind.
guys. I'm just want to know if you.
In the universal mind of God. That is our paradigm. That's our answer. And that's a justification. That actually makes sense. If there is a universal mind, it follows that there would be universal concepts. If they have no alternative, nothing follows from their view of brute facts. So it's illogical to hold their position over the one that actually has a coherence and a justification, which is the Christian paradigm.
You guys can think of anything that exists without a place. That's the question I'm asking you.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like logic does, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be special pleading because you're saying that it
Oh
does.
no,
but I'm
I mean,
asking you-
for example, like I think like all like imaginations things, like all things, all thoughts. It's like I know there are these synaptic processes that happen in your brains. Like you could say like it happens in the synaptic cleft. That's like where the like part of imagination happens. But like unicorns, right? Like I know that they don't really exist so far. But I think that like the concept of them does. So it's not.
Boom. There you go. Concept. Where does the concept exist? I think he's going to say in the mind. Now, it sounds like he thinks a mind is your brain, which is totally wrong. Your mind is very different than your brain. So some things do exist in your mind, in your brain, like electrical signals and chemicals and synapses and all these things. But the mind is the immaterial, intellectual faculty that you have or something like that. So he's quite right to say a unicorn does not exist in his brain, and a unicorn does not exist in, call it reality and material reality. But the unicorn does exist conceptually. Okay, where? In the mind. It's there. And that's the point we're making about logic.
Not just logic, but concepts that are true and concepts that are false.
Right. So did the concept of unicorns exist before minds?
I don't think so.
Right. So that's why concepts only exist in minds.
Yep.
That's my point.
Right. The concept of logic didn't exist until minds.
Okay. So then logic
would
okay,
it would have been
logic is really
it
a
would have
concept.
just been true fact of reality before that, but the concept didn't exist until minds.
Yeah, but the point is logic itself is a concept. It's nothing more than an objective true concept.
Okay.
So then
I don't know if I agree with that. I'm not sure.
Oh, you don't think that? So if logic didn't
It's
exist
just
before-
I
Seems
think
like
it's just
it's
a
a-
fact.
No, okay, I'll
Yeah,
give
it's
an
a
example.
way we describe reality, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'll give an example. If logic, right, did not exist before minds, then is it true then or possible that the earth could have both existed and not existed at the same time before minds?
No, because it's just a fact of reality. So
Yeah,
the
you could say
fact
it's a
was
fact
true
of-
that the earth existed, right?
Yeah, so you can say it's a fact of reality, but why does reality abide by this fact, and how do you know this fact actually exists prior to minds, and where does it exist? Those
Why
three
does reality abide by the laws of logic?
Yes, and how do you know that these laws of logic actually exist extramental to the mind?
So that's two different questions. So I think that reality just is like how it is, and we look at reality and describe it and called it the laws of logic, right?
Yeah. My point is,
I
though,
could be wrong.
or
Like
the-
I'm not
yeah.
a philosopher, dude. Like I don't know this stuff. I'm excited to learn it genuinely. I think like the first mover stuff is BS, and obviously the Jesus stuff is BS. But I am curious about how like Platonic forms exist.
It's funny that he just calls it BS. And I understand the tone or whatever. Like, they conceded to there being a first mover because they didn't have an argument against the first mover that could stick, which is a concession. So he concedes to it. He says, yeah, I have no argument that there is not a first mover, but I'll concede to it. How is that first mover Jesus, right? And then like 20 minutes later into the conversation, he goes, well, the first mover part's BS. Oh, wait, so you don't concede to the actual necessary precondition for Jesus being God? Like, you're just, it's kind of a frustrating debate move to concede a point and then wait 20 minutes and say, oh, well, no, I don't concede that point anymore. Okay, do you want me to run through that argument again?
And what it means to like exist without a place. I'm like genuinely intrigued in this.
Yeah, so my point is that these things must exist, right? If they're even objective truths, objective facts, and reality need to have some sort of grounding, right? Facts cannot exist without grounding. So this fact would
You
have
don't
to
think a
have
fact could just be the case?
Well, you don't think that. If you're an empiricist, you obviously do not think that. If you like appeal to science or anything to explain your worldview. In fact, your whole debate, your whole argument, it sounds like, is Jesus isn't God because I have no proof that Jesus is God, or I have no evidence that Jesus is God. And now what he's saying is, oh, actually, facts don't need a grounding. If facts don't need a grounding, what is the point of debate and argument? Like, that would make every fact completely arbitrary. So, are you guys catching the irony here? That he goes, oh, facts don't need grounding. I'm not sure facts do need grounding, except for your fact that Jesus is God. That needs an extensive grounding that I'm going to grill you on for an hour. But then when I assert something from my worldview, I actually don't need any grounding for that. You guys catching that? Catching the irony of that response to attack?
No, it has to have grounding.
Why?
Well, it'd be grounded in reality if it's a fact.
Yeah,
Like, reality.
That's totally circular. Grounded in reality is the same as being a fact.
Would be the grounding
yeah, but
for the fact.
that's gonna be circular though. You're saying
Because if it's not grounded in reality, then it's not a fact.
yeah, but that's gonna be.
I guess it is. Yeah, it's like a perfect circle.
Yeah, exactly. That's gonna be the issue. It's gonna be fallacy.
Yeah, it's like ideal.
That's the
It's an
same thing.
ideal
You're just adding
circle.
God into the circle, though, right?
No, I'm not. I'm actually adding a grounding that is outside of just talking about objective reality.
Do you think God is outside of logic, or does God abide by the rules of logic?
No, I believe that
Logic flows from his perfectly rational mind. There's a third option that they always forget.
logic is grounded in God. That's my point.
Oh, logic is over God?
No, grounded in God. That doesn't mean it's over God.
Oh, okay. So could God change the laws of logic?
No, that's why it says grounded in God. If God never changes and is grounded in God, that means logic can never change.
Good point.
Wait,
Great
you
point.
think everything is grounded in God?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean everything? What do you mean by? I think everything
Like
that has
all
ontology.
concepts?
I think everything that has true ontology.
Even bad ones, like evil concepts and stuff?
Well, no, I don't think. Again, it's everything that has true ontology. So true objective reality, right? So like logic.
He's gonna be a privation, a good guy.
So
Are you a privation to good? Evil's privation to good?
He's a privation to good guy. In other words, a Christian. A Christian that has any idea what evil is. Oh, he's going to be one of these guys that evil is a privation of good. It's like, yeah. Yeah, that's what we believe. They say it so like as if that's like a fringe cringe concept.
Good.
I mean, you could say that. I don't have an issue with it.
Is that not your view, Nick? Are you a church? Aren't you a church fathers Orthodox guy? Like, what are you pretending? Like,
Yeah.
well, you could say that. I mean, that's your
interesting
fucking
take.
doctrine,
So-
isn't
That's
it?
my doctrine. Can you please show me any council that states that?
Yeah.
No, it's
I actually don't. I don't know enough about
Right,
it. Go
you don't
ahead.
know about it.
So what is evil?
Yeah, I believe evil is going to be anything that goes against God's will.
Okay, so is the concept of evil grounded in God?
Well, I don't think evil has ontology. So, no.
Okay, so then Joel was perfectly right.
With what?
What's evil then? What's evil?
Oh, yeah, I just said evil is anything that goes against God's will.
Oh, okay, dude.
But is it the privation of good?
I
Oh, this
just
is
said- yeah, I
perfect.
just
So
said, yeah, I
it's
know,
a
it's wrong.
concept.
What, evil is a concept?
That's what you're saying. It's the
Why do you think
idea
evil-
of something
not
that goes
necessarily.
against
No, I
God's
think evil
will.
I think evil is an action.
Okay, so could evil exist before humans?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you're talking about like angels and stuff like that, then yeah,
But God couldn't do an evil?
no, because it's going against God's will. So that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
he can't.
How could God will to do against his will? That would make no sense.
How do you
things
go
against
against your
his
own
will.
will? Oh.
But he made things that could go against his will?
Yes.
Yeah.
So his will was to make things that go against his will?
His will was to make things that have the ability to choose freely to either align with him or align against him.
But if all these things are grounded in God, then it all has to be like the part of being omnipotent. I don't know if you hold to that. Is that everything is your will, everything that happens, right?
I mean, I hold omnipotence being able to do anything that's logically possible. Because again, I hold the laws of logic being grounded.
Right, absolutely. But like doing an evil thing is logically possible.
Yeah, again, I don't think it's logically possible that doing an evil thing is possible for God, because again, God is going to have His will. And
So you don't hold that it's logically possible. You mean logically possible for?
No, yeah, Newman. I was very impressed by Fearless. He's like killing it, and it's even more clear than like some of these Jay Dyer debates. And he's very. Sometimes it seems like he's getting worked up and talking fast, but actually he's being extremely patient given the tone of these atheist guys. And it's like, what I mean by the tone is they're asking a slew of questions, and there is like a sort of pretension of like open-mindedness, but you can feel in the question that they're asking it in order to trap him, not in order to learn. I don't want to put that on them unnecessarily, but that you tell me. Actually, you guys tell me if that's what you feel. Do you think these guys are genuinely trying to learn about Nick's view, or are they just waiting for a part where they can trap him? And Nick is doing an amazing job of not being trapped. One, because he's just right. He's got the truth on his side. But even if you have the truth on your side, you don't always defend the truth. You can't always defend the truth well, and he's doing a commendable job, a very good job.
Like each person.
yeah, it's largely possible for us to do evil because evil is an action that goes against God's will.
So omnipotent just means like being yourself.
No, omnipotent means the ability to do anything that's logically possible. I don't know what you mean to be yourself,
but there's things that are logically possible that he's incapable of. The act itself is logically possible, but not for him.
Yeah, that would make it logically impossible. If, for instance, if you are the good, how is it logically possible for you to be the good and do evil? I mean, that's impossible. So he hasn't really refuted this point yet.
Right.
Yeah. So,
right. So then that's a thing he can't do, but other people can do, right?
Yeah, if you mean like logically possible insofar as yourself, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so that's why I don't know if omnipotent is the right like word for that. Then.
That's typically how early philosophers use the term omnipotent, such as Aristotle. You read the 7 categories.
It just means that you can do all the stuff that you can do.
It means you can do all the stuff that's logically possible for you to do, right? So, okay, so is it logically impossible for me to have a child with a rhinoceros? Is it logically possible for me to have a child, a born, rhinoceros, half human child? No, it's not logically possible. Does that mean it's not logically possible for a rhinoceros to have a child with another rhinoceros? Of course. Hey, what's up, Infamous? Are you? Yo, how you doing, brother? How you doing?
Good.
Chilling. Yeah, we're just watching this sort of Christian God is make believe refutation on TikTok, but I don't really know any of these people before this morning.
TikTok debating.
I know TikTok debating is usually so bad, but Nick is doing a really great job, and the atheists are a little smug, but for the most part, they're actually being pretty manageable.
It just means that you can't do anything that could not possibly exist, right? So, like, for example, I couldn't create a squared circle.
Right.
But why could God not do the evil thing? Why is that illogical?
Yeah, because if we define evil as anything going against his will, then he can't do something.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we just have to renegotiate all the language.
No, that was the very first thing he said. You asked him, what's your definition of evil? He said, that which goes against the will of God. He's been 100% coherent and consistent. He's not redefining anything. You asked him what his standard for evil was, that which goes against God's will. Now, 5 minutes later, just because you forgot he said that, and you ask him again, and he gives the same answer, he's not redefining evil.
I mean, this is how language has been.
I want to go back to the square circle thing real quick, though, because I can't make a square circle, and God can't make a square circle.
Right.
That act is illogical, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
I can cut a cat open for fun, but God can't cut a cat open for fun. The act itself is not an illogical thing. It's only illogical for some of us. I can't.
Yeah, but you're not the essence of good. Like, you're not pure being. You're not. So, like I said, well, you guys I already made this point, but it is relevant who is doing the act. Like a jellyfish, it's logically possible for me to solve the problem 5 + 5 = question mark. I would say 10. Does that mean it's logically possible for a jellyfish to solve the mathematical problem 5 + 5 = 10? No. It is relevant who the actual doer is.
Make a universe. God can. It's illogical for me, so I can't do it.
I mean, I wouldn't say no.
Am I omnipotent?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily illogical for you to create a universe. No.
Why not?
What would the law of logic would it break?
To create a universe?
Yes. What law of logic would it break?
That I can't do it? Is that
yes.
one?
Yeah. What? No, that's not a law of logic. What? Do you know what the laws of logic are?
Yeah, there's 3. Are you talking about the 3?
Yes. Do you know what they are?
It's just outside of my capability, right?
Yeah, but the law of logic would mean that you could not possibly even gain the capability to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I can. Do you?
Yeah, I don't see what the logical contradiction would be.
You think I could make a universe?
Yeah,
I mean, the atheist is technically right here, but
No, I
like, this
think
is
he's-
all just a mess.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a bit of
and
a-
there is no like law of logic he's breaking.
Yeah,
but,
no,
like,
no.
it's very stupid to say that I could possibly create a universe like.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, I think the atheist is doing well here in terms of, like, actually, he's being more open than I think than some others might be. There's only a slight condescension going on, not much. And Nick's doing a good job. I think it's kind of a strange point, like, or no, it's not really a strange point. I see what they're both saying. Like, the atheist is saying, I can't create a universe, which is true. And Nick is saying, well, it's not logically impossible, which is also true. So there's kind of this, like, talking past each other going on.
Yeah, like it's not possible. Like, it'd be like saying there's an argument for both ways, right? There's no law of logic breaking with creating a universe,
Right.
but there's a law of logic being broke because of the properties that make up you with the law of identity of you not being able to do that thing because it's not within your properties or like possible properties.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it just also depends on what you mean by universe. That's also like an open, that's sort of a thing that doesn't have a single reference. Like, if I open a new Sims 5 save, is that me creating a new universe? Like, in a sense. So, okay, so then Newman says, I think the atheist is wrong. Logical possibility means there isn't a contradiction. Yeah, right. But something can be logically possible without it being metaphysically possible.
Yeah, he's
that's what
talking
we're
about
saying.
modality.
Yeah.
You hit on the head. I lost my words. Like,
Yeah.
like there's nothing logically contradictory about the sentence, I could create a universe.
Right. Yeah. But metaphysically, we would just probably assume, or we could probably argue that it is impossible for him to create a universe. So they're just talking. They're using two different.
You just have to go deeper than the laws of logic and like
Yeah.
ascertain the identity and property of like the person being talked about.
Okay.
And you the ability to create a universe.
Okay, that's interesting. So you think any human could just make a universe? That's interesting.
No,
If God
again,
God
of course,
can
that's
do it in any possible world.
Right.
Right.
No, what I'm saying is like on my own, because when you're talking about God,
I
you're
guess
just
if
talking
God gave
about
you
God.
the ability to do it.
Yeah. That would be another way. Yeah, I guess that's what Nick says. Again, it's like they're just talking. They're both confused. They're
They're
not.
talking in circles.
They're
like,
talking in circles because they're just.
They're each trying to fish for a win here. Like, I can feel it.
Yeah. It's kind of like, and they should both know better. Like, they should both be able to see that one of them's talking about metaphysical possibility and the other one's talking about logical possibility. Actually, one of
Well,
them.
no, because they're both talking about like modality, but they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So we'll try to not stick on this particular point.
God could kill a cat for fun if I helped him, right?
If you helped him, the only way he would do that if it was something good to do.
No,
Or
if I
is it-
said this is in the name
Oh,
of God
never
and
mind.
I
The
helped him.
atheist is completely wrong if he's applying the same logic that he's applying to God.
Yeah.
So
That is what
he's
trying
saying
to
that the properties of God make it so that he can't do evil things, and so you'd have to extend that logic to humans and be like, human properties would make it so that they can't make universes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think he's just he's sticking on this point that Nick's already explained like 3 or 4 times, which is that God is the good. So, and that's what he just said. Well, I guess the only way God could kill a cat, quote, for fun or whatever, is if that were actually a good thing to do. And they almost like reverse positions where Nick is saying it's metaphysically it's impossible for God to do these evil things, right? To do evil, given his nature, given our paradigm.
Yeah, I kind of agree that if that's how you define God as like being all good and separate from evil, then you can't allow for evil.
Exactly. So then now they're switched. They just reverse their whole thing where now the atheist is saying, oh, but it's logically possible. So it's kind of funny. They actually just did like a 180 on each other.
Then he could like do it, right? Just like he's helping me make the universe.
Also, something could be logically possible or impossible without it being clear. For example, I don't know what mathematics for a 15-sided shape are logically possible, but there's a truth to the matter. True, yeah, you don't have to know exactly.
Yeah, it's not implicitly logically impossible.
Yeah.
I could help him kill a cat.
I mean, only if there's a good reason to do it. If there's no good reason to do it, then no, by definition, it would be evil.
Then why is he like slaughtering
Or
children?
it could be
in his
amoral.
book?
Yeah, I hold the divine command theory. So, number one. And number two, if you're talking about 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 3, I'm just going to hold to the early fathers that it's using hyperbolic language.
Oh, so he's not really doing the stuff in the book.
No, because if you actually read later on, the Amalekite children still existed.
Yeah, and they killed them.
No, they still
existed.
Can you show me where he actually went through with
But this is also a deflection because the whole time they've been talking about the philosophy, and that's clearly where this guy's apologetic is. And so this is a deflection into the scripture, which is fine, but it's like you can derive any opinion from scripture. So like atheists use the scripture, Mormons use the scripture, Calvinists use the scripture. So that doesn't prove anything to just pick out a couple verses and say, well, God did this logically, but he basically cut open a cat. It's like, okay, do you want to talk about the philosophy again? Or are you just going to like cherry pick scripture to try to basically import your own arbitrary interpretation onto something that no Christian actually believes about the scripture? Well, maybe some do, but certainly not Orthodox Church Fathers who Nick draws his interpretations from. So
they sent them to kill them again.
Yeah, can you show me where
you don't think that the book is true? You think it's hyperbolic, right?
Yeah, something hyperbolic.
So anything I show you in here, you're going to say, yeah, listen, Nick, anything I show you in here, you're going to say, yeah, that part's not true, right?
I'm going to hold to the interpretation of the fathers.
Okay, yeah, so then it doesn't really matter. We don't have to go to the book. You don't really believe
no, it does matter. You go to the fathers who get their interpretation from the book and the context.
No, I see what he's saying. He's basically saying that there's no way that you can be wrong. Like that. Like I've said this to you before too. Like
I know
either
that's false dichotomy.
No, because there's two options. Either what it literally happened or it did not literally happen.
Yes.
And so in any case where it being literally the case would make it so that you're wrong, you're like, it's not literal. Any case. And so you've set up like an indestructible like opinion that anyone can use to justify anything.
But you've set up an indestructible question in which the only sense of truth is literal or non-literal.
That I hate to tell you, that's one of the laws of logic. That's not me. You believe God set that up.
No, truth doesn't have to be literal at all. It can be symbolic.
No, it's either literal or not literal. That is.
Yes. Well, things are either literal or not literal. Truth
Correct.
is not either literal or not literal.
Truth is a thing.
You see what I mean? But you understand that there are non-scientific truths.
Literal or not literal, correct?
Yes, sure. Truth is either literal or non-literal,
there you go.
but that's still truth, isn't it? If it's non-literal and it's truth,
No, that's okay. So truth is either literal or non-literal,
right?
and it
And
can
so
be
what?
non-literal
So what
truth
happened?
and
Yes,
literal truth.
exactly. So your
Correct.
question is
you're saying that in
meaningless.
the cases, in all of the cases where it's literal and all of the cases where it's non-literal, it's true, but you have no way to prove that.
Well, that's just regardless. I'm just saying.
Dude.
Wait. Listen, you're saying the Bible
Sorry,
is
not you, sorry.
essentially the Bible is disproven, or whatever. Like the Bible is errant or false because truth is either literal or non-literal, and the Bible has non-literal and literal truths? Is that your argument?
No. I'm saying that you've set it up in a way to where anything that you say is true, like, either must be true literally and non-literally, or it's true in either case. There's no position which either can be false.
Right. And why is that a problem for the paradigm?
1 second, hold on.
Okay, so Carlos Diaz, in what sense do you ask if Jesus is God? Did I ask? I think I just said Jesus Christ is God. But in what sense? I mean, in the sense that he's the second person of the Trinity. He's the Logos. He's the Word of God. He's God from true God. Incarnate, eternally begotten of the Father. What else can we say about it? I could read the Nicene Creed to you. In what sense do you ask, Carlos? I'm curious. Do you believe Jesus is God? Essentially, I say that because I used to call the stream God is real, but then that's almost like, that made me sound like kind of like a deist or like a theist, and it's actually too easy to argue that God is real. It's obvious that God is real. Now we have to go into which God, who, or what is the nature of this God who's obviously real. Oh shoot. Okay, unfortunately, is he the Most High? Jesus? I mean, I think that wouldn't be an unfair way to title him, but we believe in a monarchical Trinitarianism. So the three persons of the Trinity are co-equal and co-eternal, but the Son is eternally begotten of the Father, and the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father. So in terms of role, the Father has a higher role than the other two persons in the Trinity. But in terms of essence, they are exactly the same. So it depends on what you're talking about, essence or role. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Interpretation of John 17:3. Let's check it out. John 17:3. Jesus spoke these words, lifted up his eyes to heaven, and said, Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may also glorify you, as you have given him authority over all flesh, that he should give eternal life to as many as you have given to him. And this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. Yeah, so what is your interpretation? I think my interpretation is probably the straightforward, normal one. Are you saying this is a text... are you saying this is a text which refutes the fact that Jesus is God? Carlos, are you a Unitarian, or are you like an Arian or something, that like Jesus is not God? Okay, now you want to go to 1 Timothy, but do you want to? I mean, do you see? I kind of, to know how to respond to this and provide like an interpretation that actually says anything. I kind of need to know where you're at on the. Okay, so you are like a Unitarian. The Father is the one true God. Okay, then what do you do with this? Jesus, it continues after the verse you just quoted. I have glorified you on earth. I have finished the work which you have given me to do. And now, O Father, glorify me together with yourself, with the glory which I had with you before the world was, before creation. And then it's like weird that you would go to John and try to say that Jesus isn't God, when you just have to go to the opening of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word was God. So if you believe John, then how do you not believe his literal opening to his whole gospel? Jesus is God in divinity and nature. I would say essence. Well, yeah, sure. Nature can work. He has a divine nature, but not
Yeah,
in
like this is another
personality.
thing about like the different sects of the Bible is it's literally just like not Bible but like Christianity is that like
Yeah.
everyone takes this like metaphorical like I can't be wrong belief and just like they have different interpretations of it. That's why no
Yeah.
fucking Christian has ever been able to convince a different sect of Christianity
Well, that's not
unless it was
true.
like emotionally like charged. Or they were just blatantly wrong in like every regard. Like they said some stupid shit.
Well, a lot of, I mean, for instance, I left the Episcopal Church because I thought they were theologically like bankrupt, and came to the Orthodox Church because it became clear that they have had the same consistent theology for the last actual 2,000 years since Jesus himself. So I think people do
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't talking about
logically
consistency, I was talking about
switch between. I think people do switch between denominations based on like reason and
based on
rationality.
metaphorical interpretation of scripture. I don't think so.
Based on metaphorical interpretation of scripture. Well, yeah, I mean, if the Calvinists interpret scripture to make God the author of evil, I think that's a pretty good reason to leave Calvinism. So if their metaphorical interpretation is so corrupt, then anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like if we're talking about behavior and shit, then yeah, that's different. But
Okay, so Carlo, the Father being the one true God is fully consistent with monarchical Trinitarianism, literally. Yeah. Tony, I get you. Welcome, bro. Thanks, Tony. Unfortunately, I really do have to go, which is so sad.
oh, you gotta go.
I know, it's really stupid. I don't know why I sign up for stuff that I don't.
What do you sign up for?
I sign up to go to this stupid concert. And I say stupid because it's. Let me read what the thing is. I don't know. Maybe it's not going to be stupid. Maybe it'll be very fun. I don't want to be like negative about it. From Western esotericism to Eastern awareness, a shift in music and mysticism. So I don't even know what that means, but that's what I have to go to. That's what I locked myself into.
Mm-hmm.
This talk explores our relationship with the phenomenon of music as a sacred and mystical experience from Pythagoras to John Cage and beyond. Actually, that will be interesting. Because music.
Yeah, that's pretty.
that
Yeah,
would be
like
cool.
I feel like there's a lot of things to be understood about how music makes us feel.
Definitely.
It's one of the weirdest things about humans is well, honestly, just living creatures and mammals in general is that like we have this sort of like appearance to like music, but there's no like standard for it. Now, I think there is a standard for it in
Wait,
like
yeah, what's that?
culture with speech. Like
You think
certain words make us feel good.
Yeah, but the music is
But
more
that's it.
about. But you can be emotionally moved by music whose words who one doesn't even have words, like a symphony, or music that you don't understand the words.
Yeah, no, I think that the vibrations and shit of like the instruments and like how that shit does it like translates in our heads to like different motions.
Yeah,
And like obviously the people who just make up ideas in their head as music goes along, like that's a very big way.
and
of
that's
doing it.
fun too.
I'm a
yeah.
very big music person.
Yeah. Well, then the other thing is, so I mean, this is like a secular opinion. I don't even have to import like divinity into this, but clearly the way that we are created, if you'll grant me that term at least, is by these sort of like laws of nature, right? Or is via at least these laws of nature, which have very specific. Charlie, this is like annoying. What are you doing? Which are highly mathematical and ordered, and so like I'm sure you've heard this, like, but if you look at nature, you see the Fibonacci sequence absolutely everywhere, and you see the golden ratio absolutely everywhere, and you see pi in a lot of places. And if you look at music, it's ordered the same way. I think you see the Fibonacci sequence everywhere in songs that people identify with, and I think importantly for music, it's the ratios of like the I guess how would I put it, the ratio of like the notes to each other, or the frequencies, or rather the frequencies probably, which like trigger our own programming. Like we're programmed the same way that music is. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so I think I agree. I think that we're recognizing machines. You know, I think that we recognize patterns in order to like create like a better survival instance.
Yeah.
And I feel like music is the most patterned thing we've ever created.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like it's like mutated in a way to which like I don't think music was ever an intention of our evolution or like culture. I just think it's
Well, evolution doesn't
I
have
think
any
it-
intention, does it? In your view,
if you yeah it doesn't it doesn't have any like intention in the way that we think about it.
right?
More I meant like you know, we evolve for certain reasons. And I don't think that this our liking of music evolved for a like specific reason. I think it's a byproduct, a side door that was left open because there's no problem with it being left open. Like for instance, like in evolution, if there's no significant drawback to a like a problem that you have, quote unquote problem, then it won't be taken out of the genome. Like
Totally.
it just won't be addressed. And
Yeah.
I feel like this might have been one of those instances where pattern recognition just left this kind of side door open to music, because people have the same thing with other senses too, like their touch. Like deaf people actually really like music because of the vibrations in their feet.
Right.
A lot of the same things like that.
Interesting.
Same with like taste. Like we didn't evolve to like, sure, we evolved to have some things taste good and like we're a little accurate with like when poisonous shit is poisonous.
Yep.
But past our local area, like we started inventing shit that tastes good. So it's like the music of the mouth.
Right. No, yeah, totally. But I think that's an interesting question for another day. Is how do okay? So we develop taste through evolution, and also separate from us in every way, essentially. Strawberries develop the taste that we like.
Right, because
talk about that.
we're not their neighbors. It's strawberries developing tastes that their predators don't like.
Is that? I actually don't know if that's true. But anyway, we'll talk about this another day because I actually have to run.
Yeah.
But good stuff, guys. Good stuff. We'll do a much longer stream on Friday for sure. Oh wait, I'm in a movie on Friday.
Ooh.
We'll do a special stream tomorrow.
What are you watching?
No, I'm working. My friend is producing a short film, and so I'm gonna be like a extra and like a PA and just working on the set a lot on Friday. So I'm actually not sure if I'll be in the stream. So maybe I'll do a special stream tomorrow. That's probably a better idea. Yeah, and Tony says rabbits love strawberries. Yeah, I think strawberries. I mean, and this is probably the better argument for you is that. They develop to be they evolve to be eaten, and they don't know what makes them eatable. But obviously, like there's no intention. But as like sweetness, sweetness makes more like rodents and small animals eat the strawberries to poop out the seeds to plant them and whatever. Then
I think there was an interesting
strawberries.
evolutionary theory that it was to make it so they don't eat the whole plant.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because the rest of the plant, like the stem, is quite bitter or whatever. Like
Yeah, but they will eat the plant if it's the only nutrition there, so they provide other nutrition so they don't eat the plant. It's like the evolutionary equivalent to a mob boss. Like, pipe up the money or I'm gonna fucking blow up your shop. Like,
yeah.
it's like, okay,
totally.
well, I guess I'm gonna give them the money.
Totally. Okay, well, good stuff. And by the way, I don't concede evolution. Obviously, glory to God for this amazing effect of nature and the interplay of nature and the fact that the strawberry.
I thought you
is
just
sweet.
attributed.
And
I thought you just attributed God to starting evolution.
My view has evolved on that a little bit. I actually don't think that that's sufficient to explain the diversity of life on Earth. I don't think there's enough time, and it's not just like, oh, I don't think so. From watching Stephen Meyer and other scientists that have explained this, I don't think there's enough time for random mutation to actually create the vast diversity of life that we have. So yes, okay, so God creates like
it's not just random mutation.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, so and then I'm not saying God doesn't. I'm not saying the science behind like local adaptation or adaptation of species isn't accurate. Like I believe that. So I'm not full on denying like the part of evolution that makes sense.
Do you think
that we
that
can adhere to.
macro evolution exists?
Like, I don't think there's any evidence for it. Maybe it does.
This is a discussion for another.
Yeah, this is definitely a discussion for another day. I mean, like, are you saying does a land dwelling creature like evolve into a whale by evolution? Is that what you mean? I'd say.
I mean, there's great evidence that it does. For instance, like the
Well, what's the evidence?
the way that the bone structure of the whale is even made.
But that's just a similarity between the whale and this creature that you're.
It's a similarity that no other. It's a similarity that no other creature in the sea has.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. So again, it's just this is of course a.
It just has.
This is a discussion for another day.
That is only developed on land.
Okay.
Like they're made for walking.
Right. It has bones. It has a similarity with an animal that's on the land, and it also has a difference with an animal that's on the land. So you can have similarity and differences prove evolution, hypothetically. But also, it's begging the question. You're assuming evolution to explain evolution. You're saying,
Well,
well,
so
there's this similarity.
works-
The observation is the similarity. Now, how do you? One, it's not falsifiable by the scientific method.
Well, it is falsifiable by the scientific.
Oh yeah, how so?
Finding those bones in geological columns around the same times as those things.
That's
So, like, for instance, how
That's
long would it take?
falsifiable. That makes it falsifiable.
Yeah, because if you don't expect to find those in those geologic columns, then it's wrong.
Okay, I have to think about that a little more. And again, I do not have time to like fully get this. Is
Like it happened with all the
huge...
fake fossils. It happened with all the fake fossils, right? Like the
right.
ones that a lot of creationists love to talk about, like
Mhm.
not real, like Piltdown Man, right?
Yes.
Not real
Yeah.
at all. No
Yeah.
one ever thought it was real, by the way. That's a big league. Like, but you know what disproved it? The scientific method. So, like, using the methods I just gave you, like it's not in the right column, like.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have to think about. I've really.
Oh,
not
Tony, bro, you
prepared.
are in the end.
I know.
He's gone.
Well, Tony, I'm leaving, but if you guys want to keep talking, you can.
Yeah, no, no worries. I just want to say quickly, he's got no rational justification for logic or knowledge, therefore he can't say evolution.
Well, true. That yeah. If we want to get back to the epistemic. True.
Also,
Yeah,
on my
that's true.
channel, I've got a clip of Jay Dyer destroying solipsism.
Oh, cool.
So-
Sweet.
Save
Okay,
that for
that'll be
another
the first thing we watch next time. Okay.